With the start of this school year, a lot of parents, including me, are trying to figure out what they can do to help their children do better in school. And research that we've done shows that just spending time with your children can be really valuable for how they do. It's not just about smart parents having smart children, but it's about spending time with your children and being a good parent. What we wanted to do was to understand how parents affected their children. And there's a long-standing understanding that parents who are more educated have children who do better in school. And we wanted to try to understand why that was. So there's a debate that's been going on for many years, trying to understand whether that relationship between parents' education and how their children do is about nature or nurture. So you can think, is it just that, more educated parents have smarter children, or is it that's nature, or is it more about nurture, something that more educated parents are doing that actually helps their children to do better? So what we did was we studied three sets of populations. We studied over 22,000 children whose parents tragically died before they were 18. We studied over 77,000 children whose parents unfortunately divorced before they turned 18. And we studied over 600,000 children in the population. We focused on children in Israel because we could get really great data on them, and we studied whether the children passed a high-stakes matriculation exam that determined whether they could go on to college. What we found was that when a father dies, the mother's education becomes a more important factor in terms of the children's performance, and the father's education becomes a less important factor. And if a family gets divorced, the same thing happens. The father's education becomes less important, and the mother's education becomes more important. And this suggests that there really is something that the parents are doing for the children, and not just something about ability, that it's something about the amount of time that the children are spending with those parents. Because we also find that the earlier the father dies, the greater reduction in the effects of his education and the greater the increase in the effects of mother's education. Another thing we did was we looked at children whose mothers died. And here you find the exact opposite results. So when a mother dies, the father's education becomes more important and the mother's education becomes less important. And the earlier the mother dies, the greater the increase in the effects of the father's education and the greater the reduction in the effects of the mother's education. So again, it looks like there's something about the amount of time that the parents are spending with the child that determines how the child performs. We don't, unfortunately, have data on the types of things that parents are doing with their children, but our sense is that these are just the types of things that parents do with their children. When children are young, it's about reading a book to them. As they get older, it's about taking them to sports or taking them to the museum or talking to them about their lives. Maybe it's about sorting through some questions that they're having with their social groups at school. And maybe in some cases it's about giving them a little bit of a hand with their homework. But overall, this is just about the types of things that in general parents are doing with their children when they spend time together. Bruce A. Weinberg, Bruce Weinberg, and I'm a professor of economics and public affairs at The Ohio State University.